Folks, the impossible has happened. We have a factory race motorcycle from an American company, but it looks a little bit different than you might anticipate. Indian has released their new $92,000.
$92,000.
Yes, I did not say that incorrectly. It is
$92,000.
Damn! For the Indian Challenger RR, the basically homologated race spec version of their King of the Baggers motorcycle. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, Moto America has with Mission Tortillas a partnership for the King of the Baggers series. And what that is basically Indian and Harley going toe-to-toe, taking their bagger bikes, their big touring frame motorcycles, and they turn them into race bikes. And if you don't believe me, these bikes are properly fast. I didn't believe it either, but if you watch these things pulling laps, they are doing close to super sport times at some of these tracks, which is really impressive for a motorcycle that weighs over 600 pounds. Now, fun fact, I almost got the chance to ride one of these bikes. I was actually invited to go out and test ride a King of the Baggers motorcycle back in February of 2022. However, in February of 22, on that very same weekend, I had a vacation planned with my now wife, and I was actually going to propose to her then. So couldn't really reschedule that vacation, and unfortunately, I did not get to ride the King of the Baggers bike. It is one of my greatest regrets in life that I did not get the chance to swing a leg over a honest-to-God factory race-prepped machine. But Indian Motorcycles has come out with literally selling 29 of these factory homologated bikes. I guess they're kind of homologated. They're as close as you can get to a bagger bike. And if you want to show up to a track day and just absolutely flex on everybody with one of the craziest bikes you can show up with, this is now your chance. So let's take a look at Indian's insane $92,000 race bike. All right, folks, we got the article pulled up from Cycle World here. And the thing you got to know about this bike is it's a race bike. They're not selling a sort of bike with headlights and that sort of thing. Like, you look at this, it's got race plastics on it, race exhaust, really sticky tires, almost slicks, but that's still a DOT. I see some tread right there. Nice little stand over here. That's nice. The stickers on the bags. I mean, this is an honest-to-God race bike. It's pretty insane. And you're going to say, yeah, 92 grand?
$92,000.
But once we get into the specs here, you're going to understand why. So, kind of taking it back a little bit, Indian did sell you a FTR 750 flat tracker back in the day that was also kind of a race bike, so this is not really a new thing that they're doing. But I gotta say, I'm surprised that they didn't take this motorcycle and kind of turn it into a road-going version for people who wanted to enjoy it. I'm surprised they're selling it in such a hopped-up, ridiculous, like, race bike state of tune. I'd be shocked that this bike doesn't have an external starter, but I have no idea. I'm clocking things like a new master cylinder, completely revised front end, 17-inch, sport-oriented, rubber, really tall seat, all the good stuff that you'd want to see on this bike to turn it into a race bike. So let's take a closer look here at some of the specs. So obviously the Challenger RR is going to feature that heavily modified V-twin. It's displacing 1,853 cc's thanks to the big bore kit. And the cylinder heads are actually CNC ported with an S&S air intake and a 78mm throttle body. So pretty crazy you can go and buy a bike with ported heads from a factory. That's pretty insane. And you see here as well in this photo, chain drive conversion. This is not a belt, and you've got a totally different swing arm on this, probably a kind of one-off piece, or one of 29 piece rather, because they're making 29 of these bikes and selling them. But I gotta ask, the target audience for the Indian Challenger RR has to be pretty freaking limited, you know? Like, look at it this way. Maybe there's 100 people who are into motorcycling, right? Not total, but let's use for the sake of my example. Maybe 15 of them are interested in track days. Maybe 4 of them are interested in racing. And maybe half of them are interested in owning a bagger bike to go racing with or do something with. But the cool thing about this bike is Indian's saying that this is a bike that you can rock up to on a Moto America event, and if you've got the skills to pay the bills, you can do a podium with this thing. That's what they're saying, and I believe it. From what I've seen in person of the factory bagger bikes, this is as close as you can get to one, man. This is really, they've not left much untouched on this thing, and I I just can't believe that they've just taken 29 of their Challengers and transformed them into factory bagger bikes that you can buy. My thinking is maybe they're going to keep some of those in reserve for the factory team in case they wad one of them up. I don't know. So you can see here part of the weight savings is the fact that the bags are carbon fiber, and they say that they've lopped off about 200 pounds of weight off this machine, which still makes it weigh about 620 pounds, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. The fact that you still have a motorcycle that is that heavy, and you're going to go kind of sport riding with it, track riding with it, pretty nuts. So motorcycles featuring the S&S billet adjustable triple clamps and Öhlins FGR 250 fork up front. That is not a cheap fork, I will tell you that right now. It's got a TTX Öhlins rear shock. Great choice. 17-inch, like I mentioned, Dunlop race tires, although those might be a DOT because there are treads in them. They're not slicks. Race spec Brembo M40 calipers on dual 330mm rotors, so lots of stopping power. That's one of the things I would be most interested to see about this bike is how does it actually trail into corners? How does it feel when you're really on the brakes on a 620-pound motorcycle? That cannot be... I mean, I say it can't be that great, but I bet you it's pretty good. Everybody that's ridden the factory bagger bike says it's pretty awesome. So Indian says here that it's the first time the fans can purchase a purpose-built Indian race bike meant for a racing series, though this time it's a bagger. So it's kind of like that FTR 750 they sold. I know they sold quite a few of those, but this really is, I mean, this is really cool. I mean, Yamaha's kind of got something similar with the GYTR bikes that they'll sell you. You can almost get a World Superbike spec motorcycle. It's as close as you can get. But man, this is featuring those one-off parts. This kind of is a race bike. There's really not much difference from this over the bagger bikes. And I think we're going to look back at this time and be like, wow, we really took these baggers racing. This is pretty crazy. So a quote here from Gary Gray, the Vice President of Racing, Tech, and Service for Indian Motorcycles. He says, originally, the thought of road racing baggers was perplexing to many. I would agree. It was very perplexing to me as well. It says, but in just 3 short years, King of the Baggers has emerged as the hottest thing in motorcycle racing as these bikes have rapidly evolved in their sophistication, and we thought it would be awesome to give people the opportunity to own the bike that holds the crown. So this was the championship-winning bike, and I totally agree. The lap times that they've found with these things are absolutely crazy. If you look at what they were doing the kind of first year that they were out versus now, they've chopped off seconds and seconds and seconds of time, which is really unheard of in racing. But because it's a class that no one's ever really thought of before, no one's ever really built baggers with the factory support like this, and to have it be competing as well, that kind of makes it feel really different than the stuff like, you know, your average super sports, your super bikes. It's really not very comparable. You also think about the fact that there's just so much cost and complexity associated with these bikes. You kind of need a factory to step up and take the charge on it, but it's still really impressive to see. So I really think that this bike is going to fit the mold for people who are looking for a collector's piece. It's $92 grand, $92,000 for a motorcycle that is basically unserviceable. I would be very surprised if you saw any of these on track being used the way they were intended. I bet you the people that are going to purchase them are just really well-off, diehard enthusiasts who want to own a piece of history. It's like owning a limited edition Ducati or something like that, a Superleggera perhaps, and it's just one of those things where like, yeah, you know, you're probably not going to be using it a ton, but it's the type of thing where, you know, if you do take it out, man, you're going to turn a lot of heads at the track with this thing. You are going to turn a bunch of heads at the track by having this Indian out there. I mean, I do have to give my hats off to this bagger class of bikes, man. I mean, this has really brought a lot of people into the fold that were not motorcycle enthusiasts, you know, from a traditional sport bike sense. They were Harley people, cruiser people, and now they see these bikes and, you know, rightfully or wrongfully, they think, oh man, like that's so awesome. I see my bagger out there winning races and doing stuff. And it's just, you know, a lot of people get in their own heads about the bagger series. I've seen a lot of comments. It's very polarizing online, very perplexing to some people. But at the end of the day, if it's getting more people excited about the series and it's getting more people excited about motorcycle racing, I am all for it. And if Indian feels like selling 29 limited edition $92,000 bagger bikes is the way to go to get more people excited too, absolutely hats off, man. I remember when Honda was selling the RC213 VS street version of their MotoGP bike for like 160 grand, and nobody really kind of scoffed because it was Honda and it was, GP and motorsports inspired. And this is really the same thing. It is a homegrown series, but I do think it's really cool that Indian can do this and will be doing this. So I am just giving my hats off to Indian here. All right, guys, so that's Indian's $92,000 bagger motorcycle. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think this thing should exist? Do you think it's an abomination? Let me know. I think it's really wild and zany, and I'm still holding out hope that one day I will ride a bagger bike because I would love to feel what it can do on the side of the tire. It would be hilarious to be pulling super sport-esque times on a bagger. That would be pretty wild. Thanks so much for checking out the video today, guys. I truly do appreciate it. I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.